Welcome back. It's the Infowarrior. Gotta love the board guys with the PrisonPlanet.tv. Trying to be entertaining while we bring you the real news, 9 to midnight, 5 nights a week, Central Time, over at Infowars.com and, of course, PrisonPlanet.tv. Before I go back to Alex, Susan, Matt, Eric, and more, I want to play this clip of Ron Paul on the House telling it like it is, like Ron Paul often does. We know we had that caller. Could he be a Mason? I saw him make a hand signal. Again, judge somebody by the content of their character. You know, not what some loony, web videos talking about with absolutely no evidence. Has he ever had, when we're talking about Masonic stuff, has he ever worn a Mason's pin? Has he ever openly talked about the lodge? It just seems so not Ron Paul. Hit the clip.
Mr. Paul from Texas. Gentleman is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in the last few years in interviews on the economy, I've been asked what I would do if I were in charge. In answering the question, I usually started with explaining the errors we made that gave us the crisis. The interviewer frequently responded by saying that he wasn't interested in the cause of the problems, only what we should do now to correct it. This is a typical attitude in Washington, but we cannot expect correct policies to be implemented if we don't understand the cause of the crisis. Instead, we have pursued all the wrong policies. Let me list a few mistakes we have made. We have failed to recognize the true cause of the crisis. Instead, free markets and not enough regulations and central economic planning have been blamed. We continue to listen to and give too much credibility to the very people who caused the crisis and failed to predict the onset. A massive single-year debt increase of $2 trillion and a $9 trillion stimulus by Congress and the Federal Reserve verges on madness. This has entailed taxpayers being forced to buy worthless assets, propping up malinvestments, not allowing the liquidation of bad debt, bailing out privileged banking, Wall Street, and corporate elites. We promote artificially low interest rates, which eliminates information that only the market can provide. Steadily sacrificing economic and personal liberty is accepted as good policy. Socializing American industry offers little hope that prosperity will soon return. Inflating the money supply over 100% in less than a year is no way to restore confidence to a failing financial system. Expect huge price increases in the future. We have set the stage for further expanding the money supply many folds over through fractional reserve banking. We deliberately liquidate debt, especially government debt, by debasing the currency. We refuse to accept the fact that the debt cannot be paid and future obligations are incomprehensible with revenues crashing and unpredictable while expenditures are put on autopilot with no new request being denied. There's an attitude that the deficit and inflation can be dealt with later on, yet tomorrow will be here sooner than later. Plans are being laid for a super regulator, even if it takes a worldwide government organization like the IMF to impose it. Promising the IMF $100 billion when we can't even take care of our own people's medical needs is obviously absurd. Plans are laid to massively increase taxes, especially with the carbon tax, that when tried in other countries didn't work and had many unintended consequences. A national sales tax now being planned sends bad signals to investors, consumers, and workers. The deeply flawed neoconservative foreign policy of expanding our militarism in the Middle East and Central Asia continues. There's no end in sight for secret prisons, special courts, ignoring the right of habeas corpus, no penalties for carrying out illegal torture, and a new system of preventive detention. We continue to protect the concepts of state secrets and presidential signing statements. We're enlarging Bagram prison in Afghanistan, and there's no cessation of the senseless war on drugs. Indeed, as former Vice President Dick Cheney has said, we're in greater danger today than under the Bush administration. But it's not because we're not following the Cheney-Bush foreign policy of preventive war, but rather because we are. The Bush doctrine on war is still in place, and the economic failures of the previous administration are being continued and expanded. The policies required to provide a solution to this catastrophic crisis we face are available. We must apply a precise philosophy of liberty along with the respect for private property ownership, free markets, voluntary contracts enforced by law, and free minds. Also required is the adoption of a common-sense foreign policy that requires us to stay out of the internal affairs of other nations. Pretending that politicians, central bankers, and regulators have the knowledge to centrally plan the economy and police the world only makes things worse. Realizing this provides the necessary first step to salvage our economy and liberty. And I yield back the balance of my time.
All right, there he is, folks,
Mrs.
telling
Miller?
it like it is from start to finish. He covers the economy. He covers that the Obama administration is just expanding on what the Bush administration has already done. Takes on the Federal Reserve, talks about the end of habeas corpus and how it has not been reinstated, more secret prisons, more show trials out there, more of us policing the world. Bravo, Ron Paul. Bravo, Ron Paul. Yet again. Ron Paul does it again, folks. The man he's like lightning and thunder combined against the forces of evil. Ron Paul, let's hope he lives another 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45 years because we need him and others like him. Let's get Rand Paul elected as well. All right, let's go to Alex in North Carolina. Alex, you're on the line.
Hello?
Yes, sir.
I've got a couple of more bills for you on volunteering.
Okay.
HR 524 and S243. In one section, they talk about getting volunteers to tell you how far you can drive.
What? And is that HR 524 or is that, what was the other one? I'm sorry, I didn't get the Senate bill.
S243.
S243?
Mm-hmm. They're getting volunteers to tell you how far you're allowed to drive.
And where are these? Are these just in committee as well, or what's the deal?
I think they just got on there. I don't think they've gotten into committee yet.
So they've just been introduced then?
Mm-hmm.
Now, you're the one that told me about 1444 last night?
Mm-hmm. And there's also another cyberbullying bill called HR 6123.
HR 6123. And what's this one entitled?
Same thing, actually.
So is it just an extension of the cyberbullying bill, or is it a different cyberbullying bill?
I think it's a carbon copy.
Well, I'll check that out as well. I thank you for the call, and I thank you for the call yesterday, my man. I mean, this is pretty extreme. When you look at Section 4 duties of this HR 1444, and we got a story up at Infowars.com, and of course the Infowarrior.com, where I actually do a video blog about it. It states, all individuals in the United States are expected to perform national service or are required to perform a certain amount of national service. And whether a workable, fair, and a reasonable mandatory service requirement for all able young people could be developed and how such a requirement could be implemented. And remember, it's only going to be implemented for good. They'd never do anything evil. It's about coming together. You're going to shed your universal or your individual skin and take on your universal skin. Let's go to Susan in Arkansas. Susan, you're on the line.
Hello. Is
How
that
are
Jason?
you? Yes.
Not doing too good. Today, my children here in Arkansas were taken away from me by the Arkansas DHS.
The Department of Homeland Security came to your house and took your kids? It wasn't CPS?
It was the Department of Human Services.
And why did they say that this happened? What was the purpose?
They said that the purpose was that my daughter Amy, who is just about to be 5 in next month, said that I burnt her with a cigarette whilst we was on a cookout on Memorial Day last Monday.
And they're saying that you're burning your child with a cigarette, and that's just a complete and total lie?
Well, my daughter's very accident-prone, and she was in a play pool outside for about 5 hours on and off, and she's a very accident-prone child, and she kept falling down and stuff like that. She had some cuts and some grazes, which are nursed and everything, and basically she went home and everything and all that. I mean, she stays with with her grandparents during the week to go to school up there because she's a special needs child.
All right, Susan, what I need you to do is get all this information in an email, send it to robd@infowars.com.